Hello there, YouTube. Coming back from Chehalis. I think I'm actually in Napavine at this point. Had to swing into Wally World to grab me yet another hard drive. Keep filling them things up with videos and I can't seem to keep up. I ended up procrastinating and using my 1 terabyte little backup, you know, the little USB drive, you know, it's powered off the USB, the one I use for taking trips and whatnot. In fact, I used it for Durango and Utah. It's just an external drive I can back things up on, and you know, I worry about, you know, traveling and on motorcycles with hard drives that get kind of beat and banged around. But anyway, I was sitting at a stoplight, kind of cruising through here, and something came to mind. I thought, you know, I don't think I've ever told any of my road racing stories. So how about some road racing crashes, or generally crashes? So anyway, my love with street bikes started in 1976 with a brand spanking new Suzuki. It was a 76 model, a Suzuki GT380, little 3-cylinder ram air 2-strokes. That damn little things were fast as a heart attack. I mean, they weren't like the 500 and 750 Kawasaki's of the day, but oh, they held their own for a 380. Them things flat flew. Probably about 15 years or so ago, I got a chance to ride one, and yeah, they're still pretty freaky. No brakes, no handling, but yeah, they flat get with it. Nothing like the raw acceleration of a 2-stroke, and the coolest sound. Those triples always just sound so amazing. But anyway, my very first ride on it went into this Ritchie neighborhood right across from my neighborhood. It was actually, you know, one of these fancy estates. It was called Dogwood Lake Estates, and I think you had to be a millionaire to even be allowed in there. At that point, there wasn't a lot of houses. They were still pretty much building that stuff over there at that point. They're still building the man-made lakes and stuff like that they put in. It was a nice, hilly, just beautiful area. And this road where I rode my little bikes that I own, I used to go through there all the time. No traffic or anything out there. Just beautiful, fresh paved, nice twisty, rolling hill road. It was awesome. But so my first thought was go up the street and fly across the highway in the Dogwood Lake Estates, and let's go race that thing through the back roads there, you know. So I take off, and it goes straight in, takes a sharp 9-degree left, goes, you know, about 1/8 of a mile, takes a sharp 9-degree right, and then it rolls down into a valley. But you can gain some speed on that, and you come out of it and you roll over this hill, and as you come over the hill, it starts sweeping to the right. It's this long, very steep downhill sweeping right-hand turn. So I make the left-hand turn, you know, slow, and make the right-hand turn slow, and as soon as I start rolling down into that little pit before you come up and hit the sweeper, I'm on that little Suzuki. I come across the top of that hill as it starts to, you roll up and then you start that right-hand sweeper. Well, I unloaded that suspension on that thing. She was attempting to go airborne, and that sucker went into a violent tank slapper. That was, you know, I've gotten a little tank slappers on dirt bikes and stuff, but that's nothing, you know. When you're that young and small, and you're holding on to this monster, and you know, suddenly this big heavy bike starts tank slapping. I mean, I was holding on for everything I had. I was still trying to keep the turn because I'd have ran off into a, now if I'd have made it through the ditch, I'd have went into a grassy area. There was like about the equivalent of a 4-lane wide road, I guess, worth of dirt that ran between the road and the tree line there. And so it probably wouldn't have been the end of the world if I went off there, but you had to make it across that ditch first. But somehow or another, you know, I was tight on the inside of, you know, to the right, you know, taking the right-hand turn. I ended up all the way over on the edge. By the time I got that thing wound up enough that, you know, I got it under control. Scared the holy bejesus out of me. I mean, that really, really scared me, because I was flying. I mean, comparatively, it was probably nothing, you know, by today's standards, but for me, you know, used to dirt bikes and dual sports, that thing was really, really going fast. And anyway, it scared the holy bejesus out of me. I continued riding, went all the way through over into the Arkansas side, and turned around and came back. And pretty much all in butt the whole way, you know, just loving that speed and power. And anyway, I just, from that day, I was absolutely infatuated with street bikes. Now, I was already, you know, I was big into, you know, watching what little you could get on TV, but anything related to road racing, I'd watch. You know, they would air like Grand Prix and stuff like that from time to time, and they'd had this thing, a Superbike, but it wasn't Superbike as we know Superbike today. It was basically one of those, you know, triple tracks where it's a little bit of road race, a little bit of, you know, dirt tracking, and a little bit of mild motocross, you know. The bikes essentially were flat track bikes for, you know, all practical purposes. Anyway, those things would air. Anyway, I just, you know, I was already infatuated with street bikes anyway, and finally got my chance to ride a real one, and a brand new one, and a fast one at that. I was hooked. So, you know, once we moved up here, ended up with a little 400 Hawk, a little Honda Hawk, and there's a whole thing about that Hawk. That's a whole nother story. I have to tell you about Hawk. If you guys follow my Facebook, he's actually the owner of the shop that I first started working in motorcycles in February of 1980. But anyway, he made a joke about Hawk. Dang, haven't heard that in a long time. But anyway, was working for him, and ended up working for him. Then I bought an 81 CB750F from him, and all of a sudden every, you know, back road racer on the planet suddenly goes, "Hey, Smoak, let's go for a ride," you know. So I experienced some what I thought was fast riders. You look back and it's kind of funny now, but anyway, we go bombing through these back roads and stuff in Longview and Kelso, and, you know, road racing on the back roads, you know. I mean, full on hauling butt. And so anyway, this guy from Portland, for whatever reason, we kept a lot of parts for the twin cam Hondas. You know, whoever, you know, valve cover gaskets, the valve cover bolt seals, and the shims and everything else. And somehow or another he found us and kept coming in buying all this stuff for a CB900F, and I became friends with him, and, you know, friendly with the customer, you know. And I'm going, "What are you doing with these things?" "Oh, I road race them at PIR and SIR. And I go, "No kidding." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "What are you riding?" I said, I got an 81 CB750F, and I think did I buy the CBX yet? I don't know if I'd bought that yet. But anyway, seems like I had the CBX at the time too. But anyway, he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Nothing to it. You know, you come out, and, you know, if you leave the gauges on, they have to be, you know, 75% covered in duct tape, and lights and everything have to come off. Put some number plates on. Sign up for the OMRRA, the Oregon Motorcycle Road Race Association. Sign up as a club member and come race." So that I did, and Yeah, it must have been the CBX, because it was in 1982. I went for my, I loaded up that old CBX and did my very first road race. And that was at Portland International Raceway, also known as PIR. And off I went, and I was full-on addicted. And, oh man, geez, all the different bikes, the road raced a XV920 RH. The R was a Euro model, it was a chain driven. It was essentially a Virago motor, but it was chain drive and had this European style to it. And I actually did pretty well. I think my first season, I think I ended up with a third place trophy or something for the season. I don't recall. I remember going to the banquets and always ended up with a trophy of some sort. But and you know, the Battle of the Twins with the old 920, and used to duke it out with this one guy on a 900 SS Ducati, and I could kill him in the turns, but God, he'd pull me by about 10 miles an hour down the straightaway. That old 920 would hit 125 miles an hour and stop. That's what she did. 125, no matter what. I think that old 900 SS is doing about a $1.35, so he'd be gone. You know, I'd look back after I hit the straightaway and, you know, and see him moseying around turn 9 there, and damn, 3/4 down the straightaway. He'd go flying by on that damn Ducati, and then I'd take me a few turns to knock him back out again. But the problem was where the checkered flag was, which is now right at the exit of turn 9. Actually, I think they're using the IndyCar thing, so it's more than turn 9 now. But anyway, the checkered flag was halfway down the straightaway. So, shit, half the time he'd edge me right at the end. He'd come by me and win the race. I mean, I literally outrode this guy, but yet he'd win the race because just the thundering speed of that Ducati, you know, which is all that's all laughable now, you know, I understand that. But, you know, that was the time, and that's what we had. But, anyway, the CBX, that one never went to Canada, but I bounced back and forth between Seattle International Raceway, SIR, and PIR in Portland. And anyway, like probably early in the season of '83, I come out of, what would that be? Turn 10, 11, 12. Coming out of turn 10, and I see this guy, I see a trail of smoke as he was in, 11, 12, yeah, so as he was entering 11 at Seattle International Raceway, I just see a smoke trail, and off he goes, tumbling off. And even though I knew better, you know, I was partially sight fixating on this guy, because I mean, he really went for a tumble. But, you know, I gathered my thoughts and, you know, quit paying attention to him. I've got a turn I got to negotiate here. So I brake and roll into turn 11, and next thing I know, there's paramedics standing over me, and Kelly and the guy I was actually living with, Floyd was his name. I had moved out after graduating high school and lived with him for a bit. But anyway, those guys were all standing over me, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? Shit, I didn't remember anything for about a day. I remember that. I remember riding in the ambulance, and Kelly being in the ambulance along with me. And then I remember my parents and my little brother. I don't know if my sister was there. I don't think she was. I remember seeing them walking down the hallway as they were pushing me towards them in a wheelchair. And I think I remember eating a chicken sandwich from Dairy Queen on the way home. And I remember wondering, you know, where's my van, where's my motorcycles, you know, and Kelly going, Floyd's taking care of all of that, you know, and other racers, they got everything loaded up, got all my gear all put away, and you know, he's driving the van home. You're all right. And man, I was dingy for like a day or two. I rung my bell, but good. But what I ended up out of that thing was the bike went down so fast that, I mean, it's just one of those, choof, you're down. It's like hitting ice. And my foot wrapped around the left foot peg and broke all the bones at just behind the knuckles on your feet. Broke all the bones across there. Anyway, the first thing I do is end up in a cast. Well, the very next weekend, the AMA Superbike, this is back when they used to come up to the Pacific Northwest, the AMA Superbike was at PIR, or SIR, up in Seattle. So I go up there and hobbled around. Actually, Kelly and I rode my CB1100F, rode that thing up there. I wasn't racing it yet, but we rode that thing up there. I rode up with a cast on my foot from Longview all the way to Seattle. I remember hobbling around. And then the very next week was the next Seattle race. And the night before the race, I cut that cast off. And still to this day, I can tell you, I can tell you when the weather's changing. I can tell you that. Because my foot was no way was my foot healed up. And if you guys remember me telling you the story of running the CB750 off the road, I did the same thing with my right foot. Broke all the same bones in the right foot out racing around on the back roads as I did with my left foot when I crashed the CBX. CBX, she got tore up pretty good, knocked some fins off the number one or the far left cylinder on the outside edge. And I never raced that thing again. From that point, I started racing the CB1100F. Boy, you're talking about a head-shaking son of a gun. But it was only in one turn. It was coming out of turn 5 at SIR. You know, what's funny is this guy from Totem Lake Honda, some brothers that were all racing. Anyway, he was racing the same red and white CB1100F as me, and we'd always end up toe-to-toe battling it out. And I remember going side by side with him, sweeping through turn 5, and both of us getting the exact same, you know, head shake. I mean, just a violent tank slapper for it, but you gave it more gas. Just don't take the weight off that front end, you know, just wick it up and it'd snap out of it. But yeah, it was make sure I got no bugs here. Oh, do I have a bug there? I think I might have a bug. Oh yeah, I got a bug right in the middle there. Sorry about that. I hope I didn't make a smear and make it worse. But anyway, yeah, that was a brutal crash on the CBX. And anyway, the 1100F, the same time the 1100Fs had come out, the Honda VF750F Interceptor had come out, and that 750 Interceptor would pretty much do the same top speed as my 1100F. I'd edge him, but not by the amount you should. You know, it was at the time that was the Honda's official Superbike, and man, everybody was racing those things. If you didn't have a VF750F, you pretty much were not competitive. So ended up buying the 84 when it first came out in late 83 or 84 or late 83 as an 84 model. And of course that's when Ronald Reagan was trying to save Harley Davidson and impose that tax tariff on anything over 700 cc. So I paid it was a 40% tax. So I paid a chunk of money for that thing. And anyway, raced that and a couple of good get-offs on that thing. Man, I had this one crash at PIR, Portland International Raceway. Flying into turn one, I seen bikes down out in the field past turn one, but you know, that's not uncommon, you know, because you're coming off of this huge straightaway, the drag strip, and you know, you dive into a, you know, for all practical purposes, a 90-degree right-hand turn. But I see a bike down out there, and I come rolling in, you're full on brakes, and he had blown an engine, or he had crashed and knocked the cover off or something. Anyway, I hit oil, and boom, down I went. And it caught me. So, you know, crashing in oil is the worst thing, because there's like you go down so fast. Oh, St. Helens out there. You go down so fast, there's like no chance to react. It just, boom, you're down. And, man, I immediately went from asphalt to the dirt and started tumbling, and that's the worst thing. You know, you want to get flat, whether you're either face down or flat on your back. You know, try to get as much of that leather on the ground as you can and scrub some freaking speed off, because you do not want to have any speed when you hit that dirt, because you know, you're liable to catch something, and that starts you flipping. Once you start flipping and tumbling, you're in serious trouble. You start breaking arms and feet and everything else, your neck. Anyway, I hit the deck, woof, off into the dirt I go, and man, I tumbled and come to a stop, and all the dust is flying around, and all I hear is I just hear this slide after slide, you know, and I look, and just one bike after another is hitting that same oil and coming down. I mean, it is a full-on freak accident on the freeway looking thing. So I thought, I'm like running for motorcycles. I've got to get the hell off of this track. So, you know, bikes go out when they crash. So I run, because I'm not far off the track. I run to go to the inside of turn one to get the hell away from all this. And one of the Totem Lake brothers had I think it was a ZX 750 or GPZ 750R, and it was all painted lime green like Wes Cooley and Wayne Rainey's Kawasaki's, you know, and looked like one of the factory Kawasaki's of the day. And man, that bike's coming right at me, and I'm running as fast as I can to get across the track. In the last second, I literally have to jump in the air and let that bike go underneath me. And this bike's going, geez, a good, you know, 80, 90 plus miles an hour. You know, he's just coming off the straightaway, and boom, just like me, he just hit the deck. So I leap over the motorcycle and get to the inside, and a few more bikes go down, and it was just a melee. A melee. The race was red flagged and everything. And anyway, you know, everything got wound up and stopped, and go over there and pick up the old 750 Interceptor. It had crushed the bar. It had hit the side of the tank so hard it knocked a hole in it. I mean, it looked like somebody had taken a big punch and knocked a, you know, good lord, a 3/4 of an inch hole in that thing. I pick it up, gas is going everywhere, and you know, it's spilling down, the motor's hot, and it's hissing and smoking and carrying on. I wait for a fireball to go off, you know. Then I lay it back down, let the fuel burn off so it's below the hole, and I picked it up, and she was all geeked, but I actually rode it back to the pits. You know, everybody else is getting trailered up and hauled out of there, but I was able to ride it. You know, couldn't make a left-hand turn very well because the bar was wrapped over into the tank. But I made it back with it. I was into that day. Then there was this one time on the 750 Interceptor again, is they would mix the classes. The 750 would take off with the 1000s, which really irritated me when they'd stack them like that, because I would, to get more race time, I would enter, and back in the day they called it 750 production and open production, and then 750 modified, which would be like a, you know, Superbike now, and 1000 modified or open modified. Well, I'd race that you know, the stock 750 in 4 classes. Well, shit, they would stack these when they'd have too big of a crowd, they would stack the classes, so I could only enter, you know, 1. Well, the 750 was the title I was after, you know, especially in the production. I think it was the production class. It might have been modified. But 750 production was like the one to win. It was the biggest crowd. There was more racers in there because you didn't have to do anything to your bike. You know, your bike had to be stock. So anyway, we take off and we took off, you know, however many seconds in a wave, and then the 1000s would take off after us. And because there were so many guys there, these things were like 6 or 7 lap heats. So they weren't very long races, and PIR is just shy of, well, you might as well say it's 2 miles around. And so anyway, the goal was they had it figured out that the time span between the 750s taking off and the 1000s taking off is that the 750s would finish the race right before the 1000s, and you wouldn't intermingle the classes. And the 750s are slower than the 1000s, so they're less likely to, you know, start lapping 1000s, which you did anyway. There's always going to be those slower riders. So, you know, I'm bombing along, and I had this one with, I mean, locked up. This was my race. I was absolutely gone out in the lead. And you know, they give you the flags, and the notifications let you know there's like a halfway point, and then they didn't tell you what lap you were on. You had to have somebody from your pit crew give you a pit board, let you know how many laps were left. So anyway, I got this thing in the bag, and I come around, there's the white flag, and I'm like, oh, look at all the deer right there. 2 of them. But anyway, I get the white flag, and so I back off, and I'm done, you know. And all of a sudden, I'm like, what the hell? All the guys from my class are still going. And I realized I had caught the freaking checkered flag. I might have this backward. Maybe the 1000s took off first. But anyway, the 1000s got their white flag, then the checkered flag. I still had one more lap, but because I was so far in the lead, I caught the first class, the 1000 class. I caught their flag. That wasn't my checkered flag. It was a checkered and white flag, but all I seen was that checkered, and I was done. So it was actually a checkered and white. Checkered for the 1000s, a white flag for the 750s. Yeah, so I must have the starting order backwards. So anyway, I'm like, oh my god, I just threw this race away. And I mean, I'm just wide open. And man, I come into turn 1. I don't think I ever in my life broke so late. I must have taken 3 or 4 guys in one turn. And then turn 1 is turn 1A and there's 1A and 1B. It's like a double apex turn, you know. And so anyway, I make it through A and B, make it through 2, and I'm just passing people like crazy. I think I only had like 1 or 2 guys, and they were like right there. I mean, I was going to get them. There's no way. I mean, I was so freaked out. There was no way I was not going to win this race, especially after the idiot move I made. And I think I had looked back, to see where people were, and that's when I seen the white, and, which signifies the last lap, and the checkered flying at the same time. And then I see the guys go by and realize what I had done. But luckily, I didn't like scrub all my speed off. I was still flipping along pretty good. But anyway, hit turn 3, and I mean, I was flying. That old Interceptor, she didn't know what the hell had happened to her. I was ringing her out. I hit turn 3 and washed the front end out. Went in too fast, too hot. and washed out. And the way turn 3 is, you go off and you immediately hit this dry, bumpy dirt. I hit that dirt and just immediately this most violent, I mean, that's probably the most violent crash that I clearly remember the whole thing. All I could hear is like my body going, and I could hear like my bones rattling as I'm just flipping and rolling, and the bike's flipping and rolling beside me, and I was the only one that went down. I went down all by myself. You know, it was nothing on the track or anything. I just pushed that left-hand turn way too hard. And PIR is predominantly right-hand turns. So, you know, the left side of your tire is always going to be the cooler side. And, anyway, down I went and rang the shit out of my bell. It didn't knock me out or anything, but beat me down like it was pissed off at me. And that one mangled up the old Interceptor pretty good. Mangled her good and proper. The subframes on those things didn't, well, technically it wasn't a subframe because it didn't unbolt. It twisted everything. Oh, it was a mess. Huge mess. And broke my right wrist. And that was the craziest thing. I remember when I was a kid, and the doctors used to tell my mom that, you know, aliens came and dropped me off. Because I would heal so fast. It's crazy. I pray that's still true. But I would heal so fast. But I was working the parts counter I was the parts manager at that Honda and Yamaha shop. The first one I started at. Well, I'm right-handed. So I, you know, had my hand in the, you know, first little splint thing, and, you know, and I figured out how to write with it, you know, and, you know, you go a day or two and you come back and they cast you up once all the swelling goes down. And, man, one day that cast, where it came through my thumb, was bugging the crap out of me. So I went downstairs and took a pair of dikes and chopped that little section where it went around my thumb, you know. And I could write pretty good with it. And then I don't know if my wrist was too swollen when they put the cast on or what, but that cast was like crazy as hell loose. I mean, if it wasn't for right around my wrist, I could have just slid my hand right out of the cast. You know, and I could have, but it was painful, you know, trying to pull my hand through that tight spot. So I went down there with the dikes and I think some tin snips or whatever the hell it was, and I hacked that thing back a bit, slid my hand out of it. And we're talking within a week after I got the cast on. And man, I gotta be getting bugs on this thing. I see something on there. I hope it's not tearing everything up. Anyway, within a week I had that cast off, and my wrist has never ached. I've never had a problem with that wrist, ever. But everybody freaked out, where's the cast? I said, I took some bitch off, it was just getting in the way. But it was real sensitive and sore for a while, but no lingering problems from it. All was well that ended well. And anyway, there's a couple little road rage stories. There's tons of them. Oh man, tons of them. Running over a guy's head. Oh yeah, I got some good ones. So maybe we'll tell some road rage stories here for a little bit. So anyway, I'm getting on my last little stretch here. I'm gonna let you guys roll out and go back to whatever you were doing. Quit watching the boob tube or YouTube. So anyway, thanks for hanging out for a nice little cold ride while I went to go get a hard drive. And you guys take care. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching now.